John Ford said, "You can speak well if your tongue can deliver the message of your heart." Speech has taught me how to take a thought or group of thoughts and turn them into a well-formatted and interesting speech. I've learned how to grab somebody's attention and hold it, how to put facts into a speech and keep it entertaining, and many other valuable lessons. Today, I'll be taking all of those lessons I've learned during my time in this class and using them to analyze a speech from TED Talk, a well-known online source of many speeches. The speech we will be talking about specifically is Brené Brown's The Power of Vulnerability. In this speech, Brené uses her research in human connections to talk about her quest to know her personal self and humanity. Personally, this has to be done very well for it to grab my attention, and our speaker did do it well in most areas. She started the speech off with a story from a couple of years ago. This brings me to my first point. The story was a good one, but it was just drawn out for too long. For 2 minutes, you listened to her talk about how she was being portrayed in an article and how she became known as a researcher storyteller. I personally would have shortened the story down to about a minute and a half at most, and given my personal definition of a researcher and storyteller afterwards. Secondly, much of this speech was just telling stories. This could have been done in a more captivating way, but instead we went from one story to the next with a little bit of an explanation of the overall theme in between. From personal experience, I know what it's like to be in the middle of writing a speech and see that there are too many things that aren't needed. This is one of those moments where I would have went in and cut half of those and filled the story's areas with more interesting and gripping discussions. Turning your speech into what can only be described as an anthology of short stories can lose the interest of your audience quickly. Thirdly, and finally, her speech was just overall dull and boring. This is a great topic and has the potential to be a life-changing speech for some people, but Brené's execution was just not the best. Her visuals were not creative, nor were they informative. According to courses.lumenlearning.com, an online education resource, visual aids help the audience retain the information, get a visual idea of what you are trying to say, and keep their attention. Brené's visual aids did the exact opposite of that. The audience was left with a couple of words most of the time, and the slides with pictures had nothing to do with the topic at hand. Specifically, at one moment, she talks about worthiness, and all her visual aid is a group of red shapes with the word worthiness in the back. These images are not gripping and do not help me personally remember the impact of the speech. Her tone throughout the speech is also very monotone and very normal. This speech overall was not my favorite. As a change of pace, I would also like to point out a couple of things that she did fantastic at. Firstly, she kept eye contact through the whole speech. Not once did she look down or up away from the audience. She was always talking directly to them. Secondly, her hand movements were amazing. As hand gestures being something I personally struggle with, I think that her being able to continually keep her hands busy and moving is great. Overall, this speech wasn't completely horrible. However, there's always room to improve. I think the topic was great, the execution was good but could have been better, and that she made an impact on many people during this speech. Thank you.